All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christy Kelly, and I am the General Counsel for the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. Lucky for you, you get to listen to this for 40 minutes or so, but I know ethics is not the most exciting topic to talk about, but I promise to make this as quick and painless as possible. So we're going to get right into it. All right, before we get into the Code of Ethics itself, I'd like to show you who our commissioners are, tell you a little bit about our office, and answer a couple of the frequently asked questions, and then we'll get right into the Code of Ethics itself. So first up, these are our 5 commissioners. We have 5 volunteer commissioners who serve 4-year terms on the Commission on Ethics, and they are appointed by various stakeholders in the community. Starting in the back on the left, right, we have Peter Cruz, and he is currently our appointee from the. He was appointed by the president of FAU, and he is the executive director of FAU's Ethics Academy. In front of him, we have Sarah Schulman, and she was appointed by the Palm Beach County Bar Association, the Hispanic Bar Association, and the F. Malcolm Cunningham Bar Association as their representative on our commission. In the back, in the middle with the beard, is Michael Kreidel, and he was appointed by the Palm Beach County chapter of the Florida Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and he is a certified public accountant, a forensic accountant. In the front, in the gray suit, we have Brian Cummerland. He was appointed by the Palm Beach County Association of Chiefs of Police, and he is a former police chief of the city of West Palm Beach. And then finally, in the back on the right, we have Rodney Romano, and he was appointed by the Palm Beach County League of Cities, and he is the former mayor for the city of Lake Worth Beach. So like I said, those are our 5 volunteer commissioners, and they serve 4-year terms. Commission on Ethics staff, we have 5 full-time staff members. We have 2 investigators, the executive director, the compliance and intake manager, and the general counsel. And what we do is we investigate complaints. Anytime that somebody sends us a complaint that they believe somebody violated the Code of Ethics, our investigators will go out and try to see if there's evidence that can prove or disprove those allegations that are in the complaint. So our investigators investigate complaints. We answer questions about the Code of Ethics. We provide advisory opinions. That's the main component of my job, is advisory opinions. And what those are is if you're not sure what you're about to do or a gift that you're about to take, if that would violate the code, you can ask us in advance before you do anything, and I will present that to the commission at one of the monthly meetings, and they will determine whether or not that would violate the code. So that's something nice to have, and we have about over 450 of those advisory opinions already published. We also do training and community outreach, and we help you understand your responsibilities under the code. All right, so frequently asked questions. What is the purpose of the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics? So the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics was established to help promote honest and ethical conduct in all that we do as public servants. It helps us protect confidential information that we learn through our job. And then most importantly, I think, is it increased the public's trust in local government, since they are the ones that help fund our positions. Who does the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics apply to? So it applies to all county and municipal officials and employees. And officials, they are elected officials as well as appointed officials. It does not apply to state officials and officers and state employees or constitutional officers like the sheriff or the tax collector or the property appraiser. They are under the Florida Commission on Ethics. All right, next up, we'd like to show you the ethics decision tree. And this is a 4-step process that should help you determine if the action you're about to take would violate the law or if it would violate the Code of Ethics. We think it's very useful. And like I said, it's a 4-step process. The first question that you should ask yourself before you do anything is it legal? Obviously, if it's not legal, you shouldn't do it. Next up, you want to ask yourself, does it comply with the Code of Ethics? So just because it's legal, if the Code of Ethics says you cannot do it, then you should not do it. The next question is, does it comply with municipal policy? So just because it's legal, just because the Code of Ethics says you can do it, you have to see if there's a policy in place with Palm Beach Gardens that says that you cannot do whatever you're about to do. And then finally, could your actions create problems for your agency or for the people you serve? And this is what we always call the Palm Beach Post test or the News Channel 5 test. And it's about, could that create problems for your public employer? And so how would it look? How would what you're about to do look as a headline in the Palm Beach Post. And that's really trying to avoid anything that could be an appearance of impropriety. So just because it's legal, just because the code says you can do it, and just because Palm Beach Gardens says you can do it, you want to take into account how does it look. And if it has an appearance of impropriety, you probably want to avoid that. All right, so getting into the Code of Ethics itself. The first section we're going to go over is the prohibited conduct section. And under that first section we're going to go into is the misuse of office section. And under this section, it says that we are prohibited from using our official positions in any way to give a special financial benefit to 7 specified persons or entities. So we cannot use our official position, which is our employment, our advisory board membership, or our elected position in any way to give a special financial benefit to yourself, a household member, spouse, or domestic partner, to your outside business or employer, to a close family relative. You cannot give a special financial benefit to your spouse or domestic partner's outside employer or business, to a debtor or creditor of yours, or to a civic, religious, or charitable organization if you or your spouse or domestic partner are on the board of directors of that organization. So those are the 7 persons or entities that we cannot give a special financial benefit to. So what is a special financial benefit? The code defines a financial benefit as anything of value that is obtained through your official position. So it's anything of value that, again, is obtained through your employment, your advisory board membership, or your elected position with the City of Palm Beach Gardens. And what makes it special is if it is not shared with other similarly situated members of the general public. So it means that anybody that's in the same situation has to receive that benefit. Otherwise, it will be a special financial benefit. All right, so our first question is going to be on the code inspector. A code enforcement officer is assigned to inspect property owned by his sister. Can he inspect his sister's house without violating the misuse of office section of the Code of Ethics? What do you guys think? I see some no's and I see some yeses. So what does the misuse of office section say? It says that he cannot use his official position as the code enforcement officer in any way to give his sister a special financial benefit. So could he inspect her house? Right, yes. What does he have to do?
He has to make sure he follows the code specifically.
Exactly. So he has to treat her the same as everybody else. So if he sees a violation, he's going to have to report the violation. Otherwise, he would be giving her a special financial benefit. Does that make sense? So he can do it as long as he treats her the same as everyone else. Now, should he inspect his sister's house? And that's why I think a lot of you said no, because it looks wrong, right? That's where we talk about that appearance of impropriety. So here the code would say he is allowed to do it, but we would say that he should probably get someone else to inspect it to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. A municipal employee is designated to accept payments for water bills generated by the city's utility department. Is it acceptable for him to change the amount of his sister's water usage to a lower amount to reflect a lower payment for her water bill? Come on, you guys, he's an awesome brother. Come on. So, right, obviously, he would be using his position as the clerk to give his sister a special financial benefit by lowering her water bill, so he cannot do that. Now, is it acceptable for him to give an early payment discount to her where the city allows a 1% reduction of any water bill that is paid in full at least 10 days before it is due? Yes. Why? Because everybody's allowed to do that. But what does he have to make sure? That it's within the 10 days. Exactly. So she can't come to him 7 days before and he adjusts the water bill. It has to be within that 10 days, and he treats her the same as everybody else. Anybody have any questions on that? All right. A Palm Beach Gardens council member would like to help raise funds for a local charity of which he is on the board of directors. The board members are writing a letter of support to mail out on behalf of the charity. So he's on the board of directors and they want to write a letter of support to mail out on behalf of the charity. Can he use his name and official title as a councilman on the letter? No. Why? Exactly, because he's on the board of directors. So that membership on the board of directors is what's important here. And so he would not be able to use his name and official title as a councilman. Now, he could just say that he is Bob Smith and not put his title on there, and he'd be fine. But if he uses his title on there, he would be using his official position as a councilman to give that charity a special financial benefit. All right, anybody have any questions on that? That was the first section, the misuse of office section. The next section is the disclosure of voting conflicts section, and that builds upon the last section we just went over, but it only applies to officials. And it says that officials may not vote on or participate in any matter that would give a special financial benefit to those same 7 persons or entities. So officials are prohibited from voting on, and they're prohibited from participating in any matter that would give a special financial benefit to those 7 persons or entities. And participate means they can't be involved in the discussions, they can't try to influence the vote and things like that. They have to completely remove themselves from the process. And like I said, it's the same 7 persons or entities as the misuse of office section. So, may that Palm Beach Gardens council member vote to give funding to the local charity of which he's on the board of directors? No, because he's on the board of directors and as an official, he is prohibited from voting on and participating in any way. Very good. All right, the next section we're going to go over is the corrupt misuse of official positions section. And what this says is that we cannot use our official positions to corruptly secure a special benefit of any kind for any person. So we cannot use our official positions to corruptly secure a special benefit of any kind for any person. So what does corruptly secure mean? Corruptly means it is done with a wrongful intent and it's inconsistent with the proper performance of our duties. So it's with a wrongful intent and it's inconsistent with how we're supposed to perform our duties. And here, it's a special benefit of any kind. So it does not necessarily have to be a financial benefit. It's any benefit that you or another person are not entitled to, or it's any benefit that you are not allowed to give. So that's how it's different than the misuse of office section. And again, it's for any person. So the same 7 persons or entities are not here. It's a special benefit of any kind for any person. And these are one of those that I say you know it when you see it. So we have a town manager or a town mayor sees a parking enforcement officer is about to write a citation for not paying the fee required to park in the town's parking lot. The mayor tells the officer that he is the town mayor and is allowed to park anywhere in town for free. The town does not have a policy allowing the mayor to park for free. Is that a corrupt misuse of the mayor's official position? Correct, yes. I saw one no in the back. What's that about? So hopefully it was obvious that he was using his official position with the wrongful intent and it was inconsistent with how he's supposed to do his job because he's not supposed to be using his authority to try to get out of a parking citation. All right, any questions on corrupt misuse? Our next section is going to be, we're going to go over is the contractual relationships provision. And this is a 3-part rule. The first part is you, yourself, may not enter into any contracts or transactions to provide goods or services to the city of Palm Beach Gardens. So you cannot enter into any contracts with the city of Palm Beach Gardens. In addition, your outside business, if you have one, may not enter into any contracts or do business with the city of Palm Beach Gardens. And under the code, a business is considered your outside business if you, your spouse, a household member, child, stepchild, brother, sister, parent, step-parent, or a person claimed as a dependent on your latest tax return have at least a 5% ownership share in that business. So, if any of your family members have at least a 5% ownership interest in a business, it is considered your business under the code, and they cannot have any contracts with the city of Palm Beach Gardens. And then the third part is, if you have a part-time job somewhere else, your outside employer cannot have any contracts or do business with the city of Palm Beach Gardens. And that's if you have a part-time job somewhere else. So like I said, the general rule is you, your outside business or outside employer cannot have any contracts or transactions to provide goods or services to the city of Palm Beach Gardens. However, there are several exceptions. The first is if your outside employer is another governmental entity. So I know that the county has a lot of contracts with, they have contracts with Palm Beach State. So if your outside employer is Palm Beach State, In general, that would be prohibited because they have a contract with the county, but because Palm Beach State is another governmental entity, that is an exception and it is allowed under the code. If it's a sealed bid, low bid contract, and those are usually those bigger bids or bigger contracts where it is a sealed bid and the bid is awarded to the lowest bidder, that is an exception under the code. If it's an emergency purchase to protect the health, safety, or welfare of the general public, so this would be if there was a hurricane and your business or outside employer had some supplies that the town really needed, you could enter into a contract that way. If you're the sole source of the supply, and there's two ways that you can meet this exception. The first is if you're the sole source of the supply in the city of Palm Beach Gardens. So if you are the only plumber that exists in the city of Palm Beach Gardens, then Palm Beach Gardens could hire your business. The second way is if you are the sole source of the supply because you have a unique product. If it's something that's trademarked and you can't get it anywhere else, then the city would be able to enter into a contract with you or your business to get that source of the supply. For that, we had an advisory opinion on that. A Delray Beach firefighter, he created a saw blade that apparently for firefighters that apparently is so amazing. It's trademarked, so amazing. The UK uses it, Australia uses it, all the municipalities in Palm Beach County use it, but the city of Delray was afraid to purchase it because he was their employee. And they finally reached out to us and asked if they could do it, and it is a sole source of supply. So we have had that exception come into play in Palm Beach County. If the contract or transaction is for less than $500 per year, that's considered a small contract, and you could enter into a contract with the City of Palm Beach Gardens that way. There is an extra duty detail exception for police and fire, so when they do those extra duty details, there is an exception for that. And then finally, there is the part-time outside employment exception, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail on that in a second, but that only applies to employees. It does not apply to officials, so it only applies to employees of the City of Palm Beach Gardens. And for that part-time outside employment exception, you have to ask yourself, is your outside employer a vendor of the city? And if they are, you have to apply for this waiver. If they're not a vendor of the city, you do not have to fill out this waiver, and you could stop listening to me now if you want to. But if you are working somewhere and your outside employer is a vendor of the city, you have to see if you're eligible for this waiver. And to be eligible, the outside employer cannot have any contracts or transactions that your department will oversee, administer, or enforce. You could not have participated in awarding the contract between the City of Palm Beach Gardens and your outside employer. The part-time employment cannot impair or interfere with how you do your job. And then finally, you have to comply with whatever internal policies the City of Palm Beach Gardens has regarding outside employment. And once you have filled out that waiver, you have to sign it under oath, have it reviewed by your supervisor, and then send a copy to the Commission on Ethics. And we do put those online so everything is transparent, so they can see that you have acknowledged that there is a contract between your outside employer and the city, but that conflict was waived by the city. All right, so the city wants to purchase t-shirts for an event to celebrate its employees. The wife of a city employee has a company that she wholly owns and that makes and sells specialty t-shirts. Several other local companies also make and sell specialty t-shirts. The contract will not be awarded based on a sealed bid, low bid system, and the cost of the t-shirts will exceed $500. So, can the employee's wife enter into a contract with the city to provide those services? No, why?
More than 500. That's not a low bid. And other people are available.
Exactly, so it does not meet any of those exceptions. She's not the sole source, it's not sealed bid, low bid. We know it's a t-shirt company, so it's not another governmental entity. It wouldn't be an emergency purchase. I don't think purchasing t-shirts would constitute an emergency purchase. The contract was for more than $500 per year. So exactly, she does not meet any of those exceptions. All right, so the husband of a city employee owns a landscaping business. The city employee has no ownership interest in the business and does no work for the business. Can the husband of this employee enter into a contract with the city to provide landscaping services? And again, here, the answer is in general, no, unless she meets one of those exceptions. The business meets one of those exceptions. So that one had a little less information in it, wasn't as detailed. So that's what we would look at if you were to ask us if they could enter into that contract. We'd have to find out if any of those exceptions apply. All right, a city employee also works part-time at Panera Bread on the weekends. Panera Bread caters events for the city and is a vendor of the city. May the employee continue his outside employment at Panera Bread? Does he meet any of those exceptions? I see some yeses. What could it be?
For the part-time.
Exactly, the part-time employment exception. But what does he have to do? He would have to see if he is eligible for that waiver. Exactly. So he would have to do the outside employment waiver. And again, his department cannot oversee, administer, or enforce the contract with Panera Bread, and he could not have participated in awarding the contract between Panera Bread and the city. All right, does anybody have any questions on that? All right, and then for advisory board members, the same prohibitions apply, except that it's only for the departments that your advisory board oversees. So there just cannot be any contracts with the departments that your board oversees. All right, moving on to travel expenses. There is a prohibition against accepting travel expenses of any amount directly from any contractor, vendor, service provider, bidder, or proposer of the city. So you cannot accept any travel expenses from any contractor, vendor, service provider, bidder, or proposer of the city unless you meet one of these two exceptions. It has to be waived by the municipal governing body. So here that would be the city council. They would have to determine that they think that you should be able to go to whatever event the contractor wants to send you to or the bidder wants to send you to, or if the expenses are reimbursed or paid for by another governmental entity or an organization of which your employer is a member and that travel is related to that membership. All right, our next section is the disclosure of inside information section. And what this says is that you are prohibited from using any information that you gain through your job that's not available to the general public for your benefit or the benefit of any other person or entity. So we do have an inside information prohibition. So a council member has drafted several options for the extension of a major road. After speaking with the council members individually, she believes she knows which option the council will select. That information is not yet available to the general public. Is she allowed to purchase land surrounding the planned extension, hoping to sell it for a premium? You guys, she's a smart businesswoman. So no, she could not do that. Is she allowed to tell someone else to purchase land surrounding the planned extension to sell it for a premium? No, same applies. So she cannot use the benefit for herself, and she cannot use the information to give a benefit to somebody else. Very good. All right, moving on to the gift loss section. So, the gift loss section, what is a gift? The code defines a gift as anything of value that you do not pay for. And that can be in the form of money, service, travel, loan, entertainment, hospitality, or goods. But it's anything of value that you do not pay for. And there are 3 absolute prohibitions under the code. There's an absolute prohibition on accepting kickbacks, bribes, or tips. Hopefully you know that kickbacks and bribes are illegal under criminal law, and there's also prohibited under the code. And this is the code section that says that you cannot accept kickbacks or bribes for doing your job. In addition, there is a prohibition on accepting tips for doing your job. But there is one limited exception, and that's from an advisory opinion back in 2011, where the Village of North Palm Beach asked if employees of the Village Country Club could continue to accept tips without violating the code. And during one of its meetings, the commission just determined that city employees who are specifically hired for service-related jobs, where tips are a customary part of their compensation, they could continue to accept service tips, but the rest of us cannot accept tips for doing our job. There is also a prohibition under the gift law section that says that we are prohibited from knowingly soliciting a gift of any value from any person or entity that we know is a vendor, lobbyist, or principal or employer of a lobbyist, where that gift is for our personal benefit, for the benefit of one of our relatives or household members, or for the benefit of another public official or employee. So we cannot solicit anything of any value for our own benefit, benefit of one of our relatives or for the benefit of another public official or employee. All right, so now we're going to talk about the $100 gift acceptance limit. So under the code, we are allowed to accept up to $100 from any vendor, bidder or proposer, lobbyist or principal or employer of a lobbyist who lobbies the city of Palm Beach Gardens. We can accept up to $100 in the aggregate for the year from any of these persons or entities. So that would be if Dunkin' Donuts is a vendor of the city of Palm Beach Gardens and you are their favorite customer and you go in every day and you get coffee from them and they always throw in a free donut. You have to keep a track. If they are a vendor of the city of Palm Beach Gardens, you have to keep a track of how many of those $2 donuts that you are getting. And once you've gotten your 50th donut, you have to stop accepting them for free. Okay? So how can you find out whether somebody is a lobbyist or a vendor? Palm Beach Gardens has its own lobbyist registry, and it is online. You just go on your website and you look up registered lobbyists, and it'll pull right up, and it looks like this. For vendors or lobbyists, you can also just come out and ask them, do you do business with the city of Palm Beach Gardens, or do you lobby the city, and just ask them outright whether they are a lobbyist or a vendor. All right, so what can you do if you accidentally take a gift over $100 from a city vendor or a lobbyist or a principal or employer of a lobbyist who lobbies the city of Palm Beach Gardens? So what can you do if you take over $100 from one of these prohibited sources? So you took one too many donuts. What can you do? State law says that we can return the gift, but if you already ate it, what are you going to do? You're going to pay back the difference within 90 days of receipt. So once you get to that $100 limit, if you get 2 free donuts, $4, you have to pay back the $4 to Dunkin' Donuts within 90 days of receipt. All right, does that make sense to everybody? All right, now we have reporting requirements for any gifts that you receive in excess of $100 per year. So again, on these reporting requirements, there should not be any vendors or lobbyists or principals or employers of lobbyists, because you can only accept up to $100 from them. So this or anybody that's a non-prohibited source, any gifts in excess of $100 from them have to be reported. So that would be if the city of Palm Beach Gardens does a raffle for employees where they give 5 lucky employees will receive a Fitbit, and that Fitbit is over $100. You will put that on the gift form, and we'll go into more detail on the gift form now. All right, so there are 2 types of gift forms. There's a gift form for state reporting individuals, and those are local officers or elected officials and certain department managers, and they have to report their gifts on a state form. It's the state form 9, and it is a quarterly reporting requirement. So 4 times a year, they have to report the gifts that they get over $100, and they have to send a copy to the State Commission on Ethics, and then send a copy to us as well at the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. For the rest of us, we are local reporting individuals, and we fill out a yearly Palm Beach County gift form. And again, it's any gift over $100. It's due November 1st of every year, and you just send a copy to the Commission on Ethics. And on the form, it just has what the gift was, how much is it worth, who is it from, and when did you receive it. So again, that's for any gifts over $100. The code also says that these things are not considered gifts under the code, and you do not have to report them. So gifts from relatives or members of your household, you do not have to report those. Personal gifts over $100, if given by a personal friend or coworker, and the motivation is your friendship or your social relationship, you do not have to report those. However, if you have a friend that is a vendor or a lobbyist of the city of Palm Beach Gardens, that lobbyist or vendor tag is the more important tag, and so you can only accept up to $100 from them. Even if you've been friends with them for 30 years, you can only accept up to $100 from them in gifts. Registration fees and other costs for educational conferences where the attendance is for governmental purposes and it's related to public duties and responsibilities, those are not considered gifts under the code. You do not have to report them. That would be if your employer was sending you to a conference and they paid for the hotel, they paid for your meals, things like that. You do not have to report those as gifts on the gift form. Any awards for professional or civic achievement, sometimes there's checks associated with those. You do not have to report that as a gift. Gifts solicited on behalf of the municipality that will be used solely for a public purpose. Those are not considered gifts under the code, as well as advertising materials, inheritance, and political contributions. Those are not considered gifts under the code, and you do not have to report them on a gift form. All right, so a Palm Beach Gardens employee is attending a conference on behalf of the city. His attendance fee and hotel room were paid for by the city. Does he have to report the attendance fee and the hotel room as a gift? No. Very good, because that's one of the exceptions to the definition of a gift. So very good. The Palm Beach Gardens employee won a prize valued at $120 as a raffle door prize. He checked and the item was donated by a store that is not a vendor, lobbyist, or principal or employer of a lobbyist who lobbies the city. Can he accept the raffle prize? Yes. Even though it's over $100 because it's not from a prohibited source, he can accept it. Now, must he report the raffle prize? Yes. Why? Because it's over $100. Exactly. Very good. The city employee also attended a conference social held at a local restaurant, which is sponsored by FPL, a principal of a lobbyist who lobbies the city. He does his research and finds out that the cost of the social was $20,000 and 200 people attended. So the cost for each attendee to attend was $100. The employee brought his spouse to the social, which means the value for them to attend was $200. So, because the social was sponsored by a prohibited source, the principal of a lobbyist who lobbies Palm Beach Gardens, and the cost for him and his wife to attend exceeded $100, what can he do to avoid violating the gift law? What? Pay back the $100, exactly. So we had two things. He could either return the gift, which he couldn't do because he already went to the social, so he will have to reimburse FPL the amount in excess of $100 within 90 days. Next time he should have just not brought his wife, but yeah.
That might cost him more in the long run.
That is true. A Palm Beach Gardens employee received a $25 gift card from a member of the public after helping that person on the phone call. Can he accept the gift? No. Because unfortunately, you cannot accept gifts for doing your job. So Palm Beach Gardens pays you to do that job, then you cannot accept a gift for completing your task. All right, the next section. Does anybody have any questions on gift law? We're going to move on. Yes?
Is it cumulative or is it $100 per vendor?
It's in the aggregate, so it's cumulative throughout the year. And right now it's fiscally, so it's October 1st to September 31st. So, yeah. So, all right. So we're going to move on to charitable solicitations. And like I said, it's generally prohibited to solicit or accept a gift from a vendor or a lobbyist that's greater than $100 in the aggregate for the year. So that's the general rule. But vendors and lobbyists have the deeper pockets that we want to get into, right? So the code made an exception. If we're going to be soliciting on behalf of a nonprofit organization, you can solicit lobbyists and vendors as long as you file a charitable solicitation log. So it tells you who you solicited, how much they are donating. You file one of those solicitation logs with the Commission on Ethics, and we will put that online so it's completely transparent so everybody can see that you were, soliciting on behalf of a nonprofit organization and who you solicited. You cannot use municipal resources to solicit the funds. What that means is you can't use the Xerox machine here to try to raise funds or make flyers or things like that. And you cannot solicit any person or entity with a current bid or proposal still outstanding. So those are the three things. So if you do a lot of charitable solicitations, you can solicit a vendor or a lobbyist of the city as long as you file a charitable solicitation log, you do not use municipal resources, and you do not solicit any person or entity with a current bid or proposal still outstanding. So if you have a village employee is fundraising on behalf, or a city employee is fundraising on behalf of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Publix wants to donate $1,000. And Publix is a vendor of the city. Can he accept the donation on behalf of the charity? Yes. The general rule is no because it's over $1,000, but because he's doing it on behalf of the nonprofit organization, he can accept it, but what does he have to do? He has to file that log, exactly. So he has to report that donation. In addition, again, you cannot use municipal resources, and he cannot solicit any person that has a bid proposal or application still outstanding. And again, if there is anybody that does a lot of the charitable solicitations, a lot of times on the forms, if you send out a flyer or things like that, you can put on there, like if you have a bid or proposal still outstanding, please ignore this or please do not donate. That way it just protects you. All right, the next section is anti-nepotism. And what this section says is that employees or officials or advisory board members are prohibited from appointing, employing, promoting, advancing, or advocating for any of those things to benefit any close family, relative, or spouse or domestic partner. You cannot appoint, employ, promote, advance, or advocate for any of those things to benefit any close family, relative, spouse, or domestic partner. There is one exception, and that is for advisory boards, and it's for cities with the population of less than 35,000. They can appoint some of those prohibited persons to boards, but it cannot have any land planning, zoning responsibilities. So that is the one limited exception. All right, and the last two provisions that we're going to go over are honesty in applications and the contingent fee prohibition. Honesty in applications, there is a provision that says that you have to be honest in your application for employment. If it's found out that there's anything dishonest on there, it could be a violation of the code. We have had one case on that. And then the contingent fee prohibition, lobbyists and attorneys are prohibited from lobbying based on a contingent fee plan. All right. So what can you do, or what can we do if somebody violates the code of ethics? We are a civil code enforcement board, so we do not have criminal powers. We cannot send people to ethics jail. I wish we could, but we can't. What we can do is we can issue letters of reprimand or letters of instruction. We can fine up to $500 per violation, or we can order restitution where it's needed. So that is what we can do because we are a civil code enforcement board. However, we do have the power to refer any willful and knowing violations to the state attorney's office, where they can prosecute it as a first-degree misdemeanor, which is punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a $1,000 fine. So we don't have any criminal authority or power, but we can send it to the state attorney's office where they can prosecute it. And then finally, your government employer can discipline or terminate employees as allowed under their policy or rules. So you have made it through the ethics training. Does anybody have any questions? If you have any questions and you want to come talk to me after, most people like to come after, not discuss it in front of everybody. I'm more than happy to stay or stick around. But otherwise, thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.